Hey there, everyone. Wanted to talk today about how I go about picking an endgame build in SSF specifically. In trade, obviously, you kind of have a lot more opportunity to just pick whatever you want, farm some generic currency, and then buy the stuff. So some builds are more expensive than others, and there's kind of build breakpoints and things that you have there. But for SSF, in general, you need to be a little bit more thoughtful, not necessarily about the build you pick, but more about how you go about solving problems for said build, and I'll hopefully do a decent enough job explaining of that sort of mentality of what I mean here. So, what do I mean by endgame build? So when I say that, I specifically talk about something that I can more realistically min-max into the end game, usually based on min-maxing rare gear. Obviously, you could say that an end game build is something that has a Svalin or a Mage Blood or, a bunch of different unique jewels, but that kind of just comes from playing a lot. In most cases, you can't really target farm those, and so usually it's picking a certain archetype or a game mechanic and sort of scaling around that type of thing. This is almost always going to be a second or a third build that I'm at least going to be talking about. In this case, most of the time your endgame build will not be your league starter, at least in my case, in the way that I typically like to play. Certainly some folks pick one build and, it either is just good all around because it's just generally a really strong build, or they just play enough to sort of get through and get to the min-max scenario. I tend to not really play like that. I usually am somewhere between the, 2 and 4 characters per league type of POE player. And so I'll kind of delineate by having a league starter. I can go one of two ways with a league starter. I can either pick something that I know will be very strong to start the league, or I'll just pick something that looks fun, and if it kind of sucks, then that's fine, and we roll with it. I would say, realistically, I went with the kind of sucks but is fine option for this league, starting with Spectral Shield Throw Champion. It was okay. I got my first 2 Watchstones, I got a handful of items, and it informed what I wanted to do for my next build. For that, I wanted something that was going to be a bit faster in mapping, didn't need to be insane clear speed, but I wanted to ultimately, have something that could more easily get my other 2 Watchstones. So I landed on the Power Siphon Totem Hierophant that you see here, and then I have some videos on the channel discussing the progression and kind of working through this character. But once I sort of got all of the things that I wanted on this character, felt like, yeah, it was good. I think in general, the scaling opportunities for it isn't something that I particularly wanted to go through. Scaling mana it's fine. It's not particularly my pride and joy, and kind of just find it annoying crafting mana gear, and a lot of the main things that I would really like for mana gear in the super endgame, I just find aggravating to look and grind for. Additional mind over matter tools on Watcher's Eyes, things like that, to really make this delineation between life and mana feel better. It's like, meh. And I played Power Siphon Totems a league or 2 ago, and so I had my fill. But I got to that point and I said, okay, I need to make some build. Probably, most likely, my last build of the league. We'll see. Maybe something new tech-wise will come out that will really push me to get into a 4th build, but it'll probably be my end game min-maxing build. So I sought out to answer a couple of questions to start what I was looking for. So first question is, what is the most difficult content I want to do? So for me, this will be Ubers. Most certainly right now, the main juiced content is going to be 8 mod corrupted 16.5s or 17s, and anything realistically with risk scarabs. So what's worth noting here is that I am having goals in mind and looking at what that would translate to in-game. So I need something that has good damage, is reasonably tanky, and can do well with most all map modifiers. So risk scarabs is a good point here. What map mods do I need to look out for? So for this, we're talking can't regen, can't leech, Ellie and Fizz Reflect. I will add it here and say that the Poison Wither is really tough on some of the high-end game. So, these are some of the real big hitters. And then for T17s, there's the action speed debuffs. So I want to come up with a build that can realistically handle as many of these as possible. You can also just say what is generically strong right now. So this could be left up to popular opinion, but I would say the strongest things in the game right now are energy shield, CI, spell suppression, lucky block. So those things are generically strong. And so I am going to let those strong options influence the type of build that I want to make. Generally worth noting. What can you min-max? Obviously you can min-max any piece of gear, but usually when we're talking about min-maxing something, or when I'm talking about min-maxing something, I'm thinking of, I'm going to make a stacker of some sort. So this could be strength, this could be dex, this could be int, it could be mana, it could be life, ES, accuracy, one of these types of things. You see here, we have an ES and energy shield overlap with these two questions, so that draws me a little bit more to energy shield. And usually when I'm picking an option for what you're min-maxing, it's the idea of, can you scale a single stat and have that provide you with a positive benefit to your character, whether that's defense or offense. One of the particularly strongest options that you have here, and I would generally target the mana life and ES buckets, is that scaling these three can give you both offense and defense, and the sort of idea of points or commitment per power is going to be higher here, because for mana life and ES, mana a little bit less so, because you have to jump through some hoops to have that best be reflected in effective HP, but certainly with life and ES, you're kind of double dipping with the effort that you put in. And so I think that life and ES stackers are the best. I think that CI and then certainly suppress and or lucky block with either Svalin or Aegis, or just generally and ES on block shield is going to be the best option. So I am thinking of something with ES and CI and ability to do most map mods. Looking here, what's cool this league? Don't want to just be a super juicer. We want to look at some of the cool new league items. So there's Coiling Whisper for Soul Eater. There's, what is it, Whispers of Infinity for ES cost. There's that Fire Pen ring. And then there's probably a couple other things, but those, at least when I was looking at some of the options, really caught my eye the most. So I am going to use all of these options that I see here. I'm going to say, all right, let's go take a look at what folks are doing. Even though I play in SSF, I typically always just look at Mercenaries League anyway, just because, why not? It's aspirational, right? So, you can generally just see, hey, what are most people playing? I know for a fact I want to be CI, so let's see what people are doing for Chaos Inoculation builds. Right, we're mostly Tricksters, some Occultists, we got a lot of Forbidden Rites, we got a lot of Smite of Divine Judgments, we got some Kinetic Blasts, Penance, Brand, Eviscerate. That's a cool build. Kind of clunky though. Don't know if I would, endgame min-max, but that's honestly a pretty decent, league starter that can transition into some later game. What is this Kinetic Blast junk that we're doing? Lots of lightning damage, lots of ES. What is this? Headhunter stuff, Megalomaniacs. Meh. Wander's not really my style. Nimbus, ugh. Yeah, no, we're not gonna do that. Okay, we're gonna close that out here. I'm not feeling too aspirational, so we're probably gonna be between Forbidden Rite of Soul Sacrifice and Smite of Divine Judgment. Now, looking at that, we're realistically going to be between Trickster and Occultist for these options. Looking back at some of the things that we want to do here, Poison and Wither, this is taken care of with CI. Ellie and Fizz Reflect, well, if we're doing Forbidden Rite of Soul Sacrifice, we don't have to worry about those. And if we're doing Smite of Divine Judgment, we can fix this with an Awakened elemental damage with attacks, and then we can convert away the little bit of Fizz that we ultimately do. Can't regen. That could be a bit annoying on Occultist. Could be fixed with some Leech, though. Can't Leech. That's probably just going to be tough for both Occultist and Trickster. And then similarly, Trickster, you'd likely go with the Leech option there, too. So, kind of neck and neck there. Action speed, though. Action speed's a tough one. Trickster can get action speed immune from one step ahead. Occultist would likely have to get the Garb of the Ephemeral and then rely on your Mercenary for that. Similarly, Trickster, if you're doing Smite of Divine Judgment, you would need a Doriani's Prototype to do any bigger damage. I think just for the sake of doing it, I am likely going to go the Smite of Divine Judgment route here. I very rarely play a ton of normal attack skills. I'm not a Lightning Strike enjoyer, and I expect that this is going to be pretty dead next league, if I'm being honest. But that's okay. Okay, so we're going to look here. Like I said, whether or not it's actually better, I want to use Coiling Whispers and Whispers of Infinity to combine them. So let's expand this here. Let's scroll down. Let's click Whispers of Infinity. let's keep scrolling. There are many people. Not many people are using Coiling Whisper, but that's okay. Then let's do a passive tree heat map here. All right, this generally looks like the vibe of how most people are going. Some people are going Iron Reflexes. Interesting. Cool. So from here, this will give me a pretty decent idea of what I ultimately want to go about and do and create my build. I'll probably go through down here, grab Charisma, come down to this point. See most people pathing through here, but honestly, probably won't do that. Probably actually go through here and come down, because I'm not going to have a third good cluster most likely for quite a while. I'll start my clusters up here. So I'll plan out a tree, but at least for the first, I don't know, 60 levels or something, I'll probably just kind of glance at this and fill in the gaps where I need and fill things out. So, okay, let's see. What else are most people using? Volatility, multi-strike, really damage to the attacks, energy leaf, damage on full life, that's all fine. What other gear? Mostly rares. Mage blood, meh. We can get rid of that, because we're not going to plan around having one of those. Yep, that seems pretty normal. Ephemeral Edge, yep, that'll definitely be something that we need to put on the list. We can use Energy Blade prior to getting Ephemeral Edge, though. Light of Meaning for ES, that'll be a farm. Shav's Revelation, definitely be a farm. And then we'll have some other options here that we continue to look for. So, from this point, let's figure out what we need to farm for. So we have Whispers and a Coiling Whisper. If we didn't, we would need to farm Aegon bosses, but that's fine. We need a bunch of ES gear. So how are we going to get this? We have a couple of options. We have Recombinators. We have Delve Crafting. And we have Harvest Crafting. So, recombinating, we just need bases, so we'll have to do some amount of Calgar here. Or, town. Delve crafting, we can do delve, or we can do harvest plus something else that drops a lot of fossils. Heist, Legion, just the delve nodes on tree that give azurite. Harvest crafting, this is just putting harvest on the tree. I also realized I spelled town wrong. So, pretty much all of these, I mean, aside from heist, this is center tree. Most all of these other things are right side tree. This is left side tree. This is right. So, we'll take a look at that. We don't necessarily need to actually put anything on the tree to get our thaumaturgical dust and our gold, so we probably don't necessarily need to spec into that. But that's fine. Ooh. Okay, that's ES gear. Ephemeral Edge. And Shav's Revelations. Both of these are mostly just going to be magic finding. This can be, probably the best would be T7 City Squares. With some Titanic. And Exile Scarabs. And some Ritual. That'll be a left side tree. So you see here, I'm looking at some of our different options and kind of crafting in my mind what we would want to be doing. So this will be more of a right side tree to help solve our ES gear issue. Our magic finding will be more of our left side tree with getting some of the Rogue Exile and the Ritual type stuff. Ephemeral Edge, there's of course a decent call out of wanting an eye level 40 weapon. or the div card set turn in. This is specifically helpful for double corruptions, because they give a higher chance to have Resolute Technique. So you can do that by, if you already have some of the div card sets, if this is a lower level character, you can save those up. Once you get to eye level 40, turn a handful in, so now you have some unique swords to play around with for like Ancient Orbing, or you can just level up a different character and do that as well too. Realistically, you could also just do the same magic finding that you'll do for the Shav's Revelation. All of these things will want scarabs to make work, so probably we're talking Abyss Hordes, and this will be our middle tree. There's some other options here too. We're looking through, we see some people are doing a Lethal Pride. Lethal Pride can be good because, one, getting strength on this build is, dare I say, pain in the ass. And you can also get Rage on Hit or Rage on Melee Attack, which then frees up a Glove implicit for that as well too. So that can be quite nice. So these are going to be the main things that I am thinking through trying to find. Like I said, the Shav's Revelations, you can just kind of use whatever you want for a ring. Ephemeral Edge, you can just do Energy Blade before, and we will go about rolling through those options. So I hope this was useful. This is just a very quick way that I go about figuring out what I want to do as my sort of end game playing build. You certainly don't have to follow these same questions. I highly suggest looking a little introspectively and figuring out what these are for you. I have very much a sort of completionist's attitude when it comes to solo self-found, and so I will pick, what is the strongest thing that I can make in SSF, because making a min-max character I find very enjoyable. Number go up when I'm by myself, very good. But you could have different goals. You could want to kill your first uber boss, you could want to deep delve, you could want to make a super fast mapper. And so whatever goal you have in mind, you can pose the questions about how would you get there, and then you can use the answers to those questions to then search through and get some ideas of what thing or what build would be best for what you want to do. Or hey, maybe you just want to do something cool with a new unique. Whatever it may be, I hope kind of going through this little bit of a walkthrough helped. If you have any questions, thoughts, other ideas for how you go about choosing a good build, feel free to let me know in the comments. And this was actually a real thing. I have chosen to play this Smite character. So in a handful of days, I will have my Smite Trickster overview with a bit of the progression content up on the YouTube for you all to see as well. And with that, thank you very much.